Once again, this is my birthday month, and I was born in Firozpur, Punjab. If I am to be accurate, I should say I was born in Firozpur, East Punjab. By the time this episode goes on the air, I would have posted both my posts about my birthplace. Sometimes towns languish in obscurity and then revert to obscurity after a brief spell in the sun. In Firozpur's case, the sun was scorching. Some say Firoz Shah Tughlaq founded Firozpur, and others say the Sikhs founded the town. I think Firoz Shah Tughlaq founded the town, hence the name Firozpur. He planned the town on or near the Satluj River. I don't know if there was any history of an agricultural purpose to his plans or if there was a strategic purpose for placing the town on the banks of the river. I can speculate, but I guess it was a combination of both the factors. Rivers provide water for agriculture, and in the old days, they also provided a border against enemies. There have been instances where civilizations have waned after a river changed its course. Sometimes, as in the case of the Brahmaputra in Assam or the Huanghe in China, rivers flood and can cause chaos. I have to clear my throat, sorry. I have never been to the Huanghe, which I consider a personal tragedy because I have wanted to see the river ever since I was in school. Our teachers told us that the Chinese also term the Huanghe as the river of sorrow. Firozpur started to become important in 1809 CE. The Treaty of Amritsar gave the East India Company control over the Punjab territories beyond the Satluj, and this was the Trans Satluj area. The Satluj River became the border between the kingdoms or the kingdom of Maharaja Ranjit Singh and the East India Company. Some histories state that at its peak, the East India Company had an army larger than the British Army in England. Kind of think about it. A trading company has an army larger than the National Army. That's quite something to consider. The British formed an uneasy alliance with the Maharaja and they flattered him to gain permission to explore the Indus River and the territories beyond the Indus River. Perhaps they were looking at the opium trade from Afghanistan. Anyway, by this time they had started to grow opium in Bihar and export it to China. I am unsure if this is also about the time that the Russians started to explore Afghanistan, or if this is the time that the Great Game, as people call it, actually started. But by the early part of the 19th century, the British had started exporting opium, as I said, to China, resulting in the Opium Wars. I did read that a very large percentage of the revenue of the British Empire actually came from the opium trade, so they were desperate to sell opium to the Chinese. So when the Americans or the English cry about opium or opioids coming in from China, I say tough luck. That's me being snarky. So it is a fact that if you live by the opium trade, then you might as well also die by the opium trade. The British actually forced the Chinese to buy opium. They had, let's say, greater firepower than the Qing emperor. And of course, greedy Chinese and Indian businessmen helped the British, so we're not all guiltless. Then Maharaja Ranjit Singh died in 1839, and his 10-year-old son Duleep Singh became the Maharaja and the pawn. I will advance a theory. And if the Missiles, which is the Confederacy of the Sikhs, had not been disbanded, the Sikhs would have all come together to fight the British. As it happens, Firozpur became the epicenter of the First and the Second Anglo-Sikh Wars. That wars that the British almost lost, but they finally did win. And I believe that these were very fierce wars. And the Satluj River was crucial because it formed the border between the East India Company territories and the territories of the Sikh. The outcome of the First Anglo-Sikh War was the Treaty of Lahore. The Sikhs lost territory, some degree of independence. They paid an indemnity to the British, and they accepted a British resident in Lahore. The resentment that was caused by the humiliation of the treaty triggered the Second War, which also resulted in a British victory. Unfortunately for the Sikhs, it was a decisive victory, and then the map changed. In 1846, Maharaja Duleep Singh was Maharaja, or the king. Between 1846 and 49, the British annexed Punjab and exiled the young. The British were not gracious victors, and nobody is a gracious victor. Most victors tend to be rather cold and ruthless. But they turned Firozpur into a major cantonment town. Firozpur's time in the scorching sun ended, and the town lapsed into obscurity once again. Today, Firozpur continues to be a rather obscure Punjabi town. And let me correct that statement. Outside of its military importance, because of its location near the border and its proximity to the river, Firozpur continues to be militarily important, but otherwise not so important. Firozpur's other claim to fame is that I was born there, as was my younger sister and a very close friend of mine. So, the three of us, great geniuses, were born in Firozpur. You might well ask if I intend to return to Firozpur. If you ask the question, I will respond by saying yes, I will return. I'd like to go to the river, explore the town. I'd like to explore the war memorials. I'd like to explore a few other places, visit the cantonment once again if allowed, and I'd like to attend the closing of the evening closing, or the beating of the retreat as they call it, at the Hosseini border. Why not? It's where I was born, and it played a critical role in Punjabi history. And I also believe that we must become guardians of our own history. We must write our history, we must know our history, and we must not allow others to write our history for us. That's one thing which I have learned in the last almost decade of, let's say, reading history. So that's it from me, Rajiv Chopra from the Dusty Mike Chronicles, saying goodbye for now. See you next week. Share your thoughts, share a comment, spread the word, share this post, share Tramping the Dusty Roads, subscribe, and see you next week. Ciao.